And then all of a sudden it goes silent and Ice-T goes, damn, that's tough.
Welcome to Hockey and Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 4 of the Hockey and Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jay. Along with me is my sometimes pain-in-the-butt wife. Jennifer, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm actually today is going to be a weird day. Just got to give you all a heads up. I'm feeling a little goofy, so let's see how well this goes today.
Well, we'll all be in for a treat in some way, shape, or form.
We sure will.
Jennifer, how's your week been going overall? Now, you know you've been dealing with a little bit of the illness lately, but how you feeling lately?
I'm doing better. Everybody's getting sick. It's insane. Nobody knows how to stay away when they're sick. But I'm feeling better, and I'm excited to go over our show today. Speaking of our show, what's on tap, babe?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We'll start off with a little NHL news. Everybody likes a little news, kind of, maybe a couple of stories as far as what's going on in the NHL. But then we're going to get into an interesting topic when it comes to hockey, and that is fighting in the NHL. We're going to look at different avenues, different questions, different people, different scenarios when it comes to fighting in the NHL. Then, for our "and" section, we're finally doing it. We're finally doing it.
Yay.
We are going to be talking about a non-hockey related item in the "and" section. We're breaking away from hockey. There are people out there who maybe don't want to hear about hockey all the time. I don't know who those people are, but there probably are some. Instead, today, we will be discussing our fascination with SVU.
Love it.
That's right.
Love it. Love it.
We are both big fans of the show, and we have a lot of takes that we want to get out there just so people can understand how crazy this show is. All of that and a bag of chips, people. So get ready for episode 4 of the Hockey and Podcast. Jen, before we get into the NHL news, unfortunately, I have to, I guess you could say, eat a little crow.
Yes, you do.
I want to apologize to the people out there because, unfortunately, I didn't let you in on something that I've been well aware of for probably over a year now. And that is, I have an incredible power. I first experienced this on my other podcast, and it just recently happened again. Here is my power that I forgot to tell you all about. When I go on a rant, whether it's about a player or a team or maybe even a situation, whatever the case may be, whenever I kind of come down harshly on people, especially in the hockey world, usually what ends up happening is shortly after my little tirade, rant, negative statement, whatever the case may be, they seem to always hear what I'm saying, and they get upset. Now, they don't get upset to the point to where they take it out on me. What they do is they take it out on their opponents. Now, some people might be saying, what exactly is this weirdo talking about? Well, let me fill you in. You'll recall 2 episodes ago, I had a list of about 5 NHL teams, and I used the phrase hot garbage.
And dumpster fire.
And dumpster fire when it came to these particular organizations. As soon as that statement was made, the following week or so, certain teams on that list really started to play better. Now, the Calgary Flames are on that list. They have been playing better lately. Mm-hmm. Still not the greatest of organizations or teams that, they're not really looking to contend, but they've started playing better. On top of that, you've had a couple of other teams like the Vancouver Canucks who made a huge trade, and I was down on them a little bit as far as organization-wise. They've been playing better. But here's where I'm going to eat a little bit of crow.
I love that part.
I threw in, at the last second, the Buffalo Sabres. And I said, hot garbage, dumpster fire, because of their track record and how they've been going so far this season. After 7 games, after I made that statement, Jen, do you know what their record is after the 7 games they've played since I made that statement? Do you have any clue what their record is? They have won 7 games in their last 7 games. They have beaten Ottawa. They have beaten New Jersey Devils. They have beaten the New York Islanders. They have beaten the Philadelphia Flyers. They have beaten the Seattle Kraken, who, by the way, is still a dumpster fire of an organization. I would just want to make that point. They've also beaten Vancouver, and they've also beaten the Edmonton Oilers for a 7-0 record since I made the statement that they were a terrible organization who didn't know what they're doing. Thoughts on that? Am I a terrible person, or is it just this power that I need to control?
I'm telling you, I think it's the power. I just wish you would use it in other aspects of your life.
You would think I would use it to, maybe make advancements, financially, just, be a more philanthropic person.
Maybe more shoes with that somehow.
Well, that's probably not a problem either. But here's where we segue nicely into it is, as I mentioned, Buffalo Sabres on a little bit of a heater. They may end up like Shoresy. They may never lose again.
I still haven't watched it. I really have to do that.
Well, I have to show you some episodes because I'm curious as to your take on the show.
Yeah.
I've now watched it. This will be my 2nd time, and I'll get into, when we talk about it, why I enjoy it so much.
All right.
Anyway, there's a little Shoresy reference when it comes to the Buffalo Sabres.
So what's going on? How come all of a sudden we've had this massive shift?
Well, right off the get-go, since our episode, they made a big move. They fired their GM, and they hired a new GM. The funny part about this, I found this very interesting. You recall a little while back, Quinn Hughes was on the market as far as teams were trying to go out and, trade for him.
Yep.
The former GM was kind of on the hot seat as far as maybe we kind of thought this was going to happen at some point.
Mm-hmm.
While that was going on, he was still trying to negotiate a deal to bring Quinn Hughes to Buffalo. So imagine, you're a GM that's essentially on his way out. You're on the hot seat. There's no secret to it. But you're still trying to pull off one of the biggest trades in the NHL for your team that you're working for. So I want to applaud him for that.
I was going to say, I'm like, that's not a bad thing. That's pretty stellar.
The other interesting part is now that the new GM has taken over, there was a statement made that he had the full support of the owners and that nothing was off limits to him.
But wait a minute, let's back up a little bit here. I want to really try to understand this. Okay, so the GM, I need to understand this part of it a little bit more, because when he left, is that when the 7 games, when all that started, or did it start in between? Like, when? I need this timeline here. When did they start winning all these games back to back? And then, when was the GM strange to me? I can't wrap my head around. Okay, so the GM leaves, and now we have a 7-game winning streak. What's going on? What do they have to do with each other?
It happens from time to time. When a team's performing poorly, an organization usually looks to shake things up because, again, maybe the players aren't responding to the coaches in the locker room, to the game plan, to whatever the case may be. Now, in this case, Lindy Ruff's the coach. You would think usually the coach is the one who kind of gets the boot, and that's where you get this reinvigoration.
Yeah.
Well, they decided to go a different route and change GMs. And then shortly thereafter is when they went on this little heater. Now, you would think the purpose of the GM, he's kind of the business guy. So he's the guy that really works with the owner to say, okay, we need to maybe get this player. We need to maybe sign this player. We maybe need to trade this player, bench this player, send this player. So he's kind of involved in the day-to-day operations of the team and the overall health of the team as far as what he thinks is the best product that they can put out there. Now, some may ask, does this affect wins or losses when a GM gets brought in, a new one? Possibly. Again, we're talking about the organization had a little shakeup. When someone like the GM gets moved, the people below him now start thinking, well, if he can get moved, is my job safe? So now everyone maybe starts to pick things up a little bit.
Oh, that's kind of a little bit poor, though. Shouldn't they have been playing their hardest? They are getting paid.
They should. As we mentioned, sometimes what happens is when you're in a losing organization, pretty easy to be down on yourself. It's pretty easy to stop listening to what the coach wants. It's pretty easy to buy in what the media is saying about you when they call you such things as hot garbage or dumpster fires. That media, there's just
I don't know who's saying that kind of stuff. That's just wrong.
This new GM now has, as he mentioned, free reign to do what he wants, which means it sounds like the owner told him, hey, spend the money you need to spend, get the players you need to get. Let's get this organization back on track. Here's my question to that statement. Before this new GM took over, was that not the practices that were in place beforehand?
Right.
I mean, I would think every owner in the NHL wants to win a Stanley Cup and would do almost anything to accomplish that. But when you're making statements like, no, the owner's letting me do whatever I want, is that saying the previous GM had some restraints on him? Maybe he couldn't spend some money. Maybe he couldn't make the deals he wanted to make. When owners kind of tamper with hockey teams, any owners in sports, we've seen it, in football. Jerry Jones has done it. In baseball, George Steinbrenner's done it, to good results and to bad results. But you hire a GM for that very purpose,
right?
To put together a team that can contend for the Stanley Cup. So there's where I kind of go back to, is the Buffalo Sabres an organization? Is it a good organization? They were in the past, but the last 12 plus years, not so much. Every decision made by the GM or coaches, there's a lot of them they can make on their own. But there's a bunch of them that they still have to go to the owner and get approval for.
Gotcha.
Whether it's trading for a player, whether it's signing a player to a new contract. I mean, the owner is the one who's responsible for the money end of it. Again, there's a lot of things that the GM still has to have communications with the owner about, because at the end of any conversation, the owner typically has the final say, as it should be. He's shelling out millions of dollars for a hockey team, and he wants it to be run the way that he thinks. That's why I had to, start this episode with a little bit of eating a little crow, saying, hey, Buffalo, I see ya. I see that you listen to this podcast and you're taking what I have to say with some meaning. You understand. You are an NHL hockey team. This is what we want. We want the Buffalo Sabres to be good. I want Tage Thompson to be good. He's an ex-UConn player. He's a great talent. He shouldn't be stuck in a terrible organization. If he is, trade him to my Bruins. I would love to have him as my number one center in Boston. There's my rant for the day. Now, Jen, we're going to move on to NHL news. Well, the big story this week for us was the Toronto Maple Leafs fired assistant coach Marc Savard. Jen, you've heard the name Marc Savard before.
Bruins.
He used to play for our Bruins.
Yeah.
Here's where the story gets interesting. Now, as we mentioned, Buffalo lets a GM go, keeps the coach. So again, shake up, but the coach still stays. In Toronto, the same thing happened. They let Marc Savard go, who was the assistant coach, and they kept head coach Craig Berube. Now, the reason that many people are speculating to why this happened was, first and foremost, Toronto needs a shakeup. Currently, Toronto, after 36 games, has 16 wins, 15 losses, and 5 overtime losses, which puts them at number 24 in the league out of 32 teams as far as the record goes. This is a team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, that has Austin Matthews, that has William Nylander, that has John Tavares. They should not be this far down in the rankings, but they are. So shakeups needed. The speculation, and I believe the main reason, is that their power play production is just horrible right now.
Okay.
And that was Marc Savard's responsibility.
Okay.
So
before you go on, what exactly is the assistant coach doing in regards to the power play? There's the inner workings of a team. I don't understand all of that stuff. So if you have the information in your noggin, could you please share it with me? Because exactly what is he doing in regards to the power plays? Like, what exactly is happening?
Well, I mean, I'm not ChatGPT. I don't know everything, but I know a couple of
Hey,
things.
you usually can throw things together. Come on, tell me what you got.
When you're looking at an organization behind the bench, obviously the head coach runs everything. He's the one that kind of implements their offensive strategies, their defensive strategies, works on a lot of other things. But there also are a couple of assistant coaches that help out with different responsibilities. So the head coach, again, watches over everything. But then you'll probably have an assistant coach who's in charge of defense, their pairings, maybe when they go on the ice, type during the game. There's a lot of moving parts to an NHL team in the course of a game, in the course of practices, and the course of strategy before all that. One coach can't handle it. So you need a bunch of coaches handling a bunch of different responsibilities. It's not uncommon to have an assistant coach also run the power play. Just to give you an example, the Bruins do the same thing. Now, Marco Sturm is the head coach, but he has then this year brought in a new assistant coach who was very good at running power plays. The coach they have now used to run the Dallas Stars power play, which was a top power play unit last year, and the Bruins last year were hot garbage on the power play.
Right.
I'm throwing that term all over the place today.
Oh, you love it.
So they bring in this new assistant coach, and now the Bruins have a top 5 power play unit. So you could see the coach brings this guy in. They both discuss how they want their power play to run, and then usually it's up to the assistant coach to kind of piece things together, work on certain things. And then while the game's going on, working with the coach, they come up with the strategies. Who do they want out there?
Gotcha.
At what times? Things like that. So again,
Right.
there's a lot of moving pieces. You need a lot of helping hands, and that's why you have a couple of assistant coaches behind the bench for every team. So with Marc Savard being let go, we'll see. Will Toronto turn things around? I'm going to say this. I hope they don't. And it's not because I dislike the Toronto Maple Leafs. I love Austin Matthews. I love William Nylander as players, but I'm also selfish as a Bruins fan. Many of you may recall that the Bruins made a trade last year with the Toronto Maple Leafs where they sent Brandon Carlo to the Maple Leafs, a defenseman, longtime Bruin, great defenseman.
Yeah.
In return, we received Fraser Minton, who is a young player who I am falling in love with. He reminds me of a young Bergeron. If this kid can turn it around as far as like really get some offensive capabilities, because he's a responsible player, he plays 200 feet on the ice, meaning he's responsible defensively as well as doing his job offensively. Boston loves players like that. So we got him, but here's the interesting part that is in relation to why I want them to do poorly. They also sent over a first-round draft pick in that deal. If the Toronto Maple Leafs are hanging out at the bottom, that pick that we got from them for next year's draft is going to be a top pick. Now, it is protected, meaning that we can't take that pick if the Toronto Maple Leafs have a pick that's in spots 1 through 5. So if that happens, it's protected. So we want the Toronto Maple Leafs to be just bad enough to where they're, say, pick 6, 7, 8, and that works out well for the Bruins. So that's why I want them to do poorly. Now, again, you Toronto Maple Leafs fans, I apologize, but if you were in my shoes, you'd be saying the same thing. So that was the first news story. Moving on to the second story, a little bit less of an impact, but the Seattle Kraken made a trade. So if they weren't bad enough, they decided to be even a little bit worse, and they traded away a decent player in Mason Marchment to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a 2026 fourth-round pick and a 2027 second-round pick. Mason Marchment is a great depth player. The Dallas Stars picked him up a couple of years ago, and he produced for them in a wonderful way. He's not a top-line guy. He's more of a third-line, fourth-line kind of guy. But what he'll do for the Columbus Blue Jackets is he's going to add or help bolster their lineup. He's an energy player. He's a veteran who knows how to play smartly. But more importantly, he is an incredible locker room guy. Now, how this can help out the
Tell me
Columbus
what you mean by locker room guy.
In every locker room, you need voices.
Yeah.
You need guys that can speak up in different situations to either help motivate the team, help discipline the team, help discipline players, help motivate players. We're curious, does Columbus have that player? Maybe they don't, and that's why they go out and get a Mason Marchment. Okay. He's a great locker room guy. Every locker room that he's been in, the team loves him. They respect him. They respect his play. So he's adding that veteran leadership or presence in a locker room. Right now, Columbus is kind of struggling. They are actually below the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're at 15 wins, 15 losses, and 6 overtime losses. So they're in that same lower standing along with the Toronto Maple Leafs. But they have a great team. Yeah. They have some great players, but they're just not putting it together. Maybe a guy like Mason Marchment turns that around. We shall see. We shall see. So there's the NHL news that I thought was interesting for the week. Jen, we're going to drop the gloves.
Yes, we are.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas, let's get ready to rumble!
We're going to start throwing haymakers, and we're going to get into some fisticuffs, and we are going to discuss fighting in the NHL.
Is it bad that fighting is one of my favorite parts of the game? I mean, the game is great. It's fast paced now. I mean, it's slick, like you always say. I mean, they're out there. There's so much talent, but man, I don't know. I miss these early 2000s where they were just like really battling like gladiators.
The reason I think you feel that way is because you understand why fighting happens or exists in the NHL. Why don't we start there?
Yeah.
Why don't we have a little discussion on why does it exist in the NHL?
What is your opinion? I mean, I know what my opinion is. Well, you know what? I'm going to take it. I'll give you my opinion.
Ladies first.
All right. I think it's checks and balances. You're always going to have, it's a high-paced, it's a fast game. They're always on the edge, always ready. Anything can happen at any particular time and the gloves can come off. Given that checks and balances, somebody gets hurt, somebody gets a cheap shot, something like that, there's got to be payback for it. And to me, that's one of the biggest, that and, so payback, but also you got to get your team riled up. If they're not doing anything, if your team is not putting themselves out there the way that they can, come on, fisticuffs. Let's do it. Let's get everybody amped. So for me, those are the two reasons I see. What about you? What are you thinking?
Momentum change is a huge thing.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times do you see a team, gets a couple of goals scored against them? Their team looks flat. Somebody comes out, starts throwing punches.
Get some fire going.
Yeah, especially if it's in your building, your barn.
Oh, yeah.
It amps up the crowd, too. So, again, like I agree with you. It's one of those methods to get emotion, get kind of a team going. What you said before about payback, I have a better word for you. How about they police each other?
Yes. Yeah.
So what you'll see is if you're an NHL team, and let's just keep it at home with the Bruins. You have David Pastrnak on your team.
Ooh, do not touch that boy.
David goes out and he gets hit from behind by another player, gets checked into the boards on the numbers, penalty not called. Well, guess what happens? Right off the bat, teams are now rallying to get to that guy to then, stand up for their player. Mm-hmm. Let's say nothing happens immediately. What will happen is other players will constantly be looking for that number of that guy who did that for, like you said, payback. But again, they're policing each other. Say, hey, you hit one of mine dirty, I'm going to hit one of yours dirty. It's an old school kind of thought process, but I believe it works when it's done correctly. Sometimes it's not done correctly.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets ugly, and
Cheap
that's when
shots.
fans cringe, and that's when media jumps on. There shouldn't be fighting in hockey.
That's when the non-fans, when they start chirping. And I don't like that. If you don't know the game and you don't know the reason for everything, shuddy. I mean, they just shouldn't be putting their 2 cents in it because it's not as violent as what everybody's. I don't, honestly, lately I haven't heard in the last 10 years or so, I haven't really heard too many people saying that hockey's a violent game because they've gotten away from it.
Well, the NHL is trying to crack down on that. They want to put a product out there that is more, I guess you could say, more fans can be drawn to.
Or more family friendly.
Family friendly is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And I applaud that. Like,
to a degree.
Back in the 80s, I'll even go back. So 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000, I get it. You actually had a lot of fights that, I got to be honest with you, were very cringeworthy and shouldn't have happened.
Some of them.
There were more than there should have been. And that's where the NHL kind of got this bad reputation, just being a boxing club that a hockey game would break out at some point.
Right.
As you mentioned, and this is where it gets interesting, when it comes to fighting, there's actually protocol that these players will go through when it comes to fighting. And I just want to point out a couple. If you go after a player, if you hit them dirty, yes, you can expect there's people coming right after you, right behind you on the ice as that happened. It's coming.
Yep.
And they turn around, they look for it.
Yep.
But then let's take it a step further to when that's done with, and now it's okay, we want to then get into a fight. Well, a lot of players, and you've probably seen this, they'll have conversations.
Yeah, they actually, let's go.
On the ice, on the bench, in between, the commercial break, what have you. And it's usually not a heated kind of, I'm going to get that. It's usually, well, I have to do this, so are you ready to go? Yeah, I think I'm ready to go. That's a good thing. So you're not caught off guard. You know it's coming. It's retribution, but at least it's done in a somewhat civil way. Then you move on to the actual fight itself, which is, look, punches are thrown. It's exciting. It's momentum building, momentum changing potentially. But again, there's things that each of those combatants stick to. One of the first thing is, look, we're going to throw punches until we can't throw punches no more. But it gets to a point to where either they punch themselves out and they're done.
They're pooped.
They're pooped.
Yeah.
Or one guy gets the better of another guy, and the other, the player that got bested has no more fight in him.
Right.
That fight stops. Punches are stopped. They're not thrown anymore.
The aggressor's backing off.
Right. These players understand there's a code to all of this.
Right.
So when that's done correctly, that's where you see, again, this policing of themselves really take the forefront and really be a beneficial thing. Because, again, you want to protect your star players. If you're paying a guy $10 million a year, you don't want some fourth-line guy coming out and cross-checking him in the back, and now he's out for a month.
Right.
Don't want that, and that does happen. So that's why there's this code to fighting in the NHL, and I applaud it when it's handled correctly.
I always go back to, we got boxing, we got MMA, we have all of these violent sports. They are sports. Everybody loves them. But for some reason, when you bring it into hockey, all of a sudden it's so looked down upon. Whereas I think it's actually more useful and beneficial in hockey because, and it's softer. It's obviously a lot softer than when you do, MMA and boxing.
They're kicking each other in the face.
Our hockey players, they're on they're on blades. They're on ice. So once somebody falls, that's it. It's pretty much over.
It's done.
I mean, so I don't know. There's this weird double standard, and it's always driven me absolutely bananas. So that's just my rant about that. I hate the double standard when it comes to hockey fights.
These guys know how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen when fights break out in the NBA.
Oh my good, those are
baseball. Those are slap tickle fights. Come on, all they do is, and there you go. You talk about there's no code.
No.
It's we throw haymakers until I connect with somebody.
Yeah.
They don't
Right.
pair off. The
Right.
bench is clear, and all they're doing is slapping each other, all that stuff, and they're not really doing anything. It doesn't do anything.
It's funny. You watch the hockey players do it. They actually they square up. They're like, okay, are you ready? I mean, this is normally, it's not just happening randomly. You know, like you said, they had a minor discussion about, we're going to do this. I got to do this. I got to give you payback for what you did, last time we met, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. There's reason for it. It's not just fighting just to fight.
Right. They man up and they face each other. Again,
Yeah.
They don't just tackle each other and wrestle a little bit. Or like in baseball, you throw a pitch by a guy's head and he runs out. And of course, the pitcher's got to throw his glove at the player. Other sports, stop. Just stop. You're embarrassing yourself. I watch the NBA when they have bench clearing brawls, and it looks like a bunch of kindergartners pushing each other on the playground.
Well, we were talking before about whether or not other sports should allow some sort of fighting. I think it's a totally different animal in those other sports, because you don't have the kind of intensity in any of the other games.
And also, hockey players have more equipment on. I mean, you're talking helmets,
Absolutely.
they drop gloves. And when you watch hockey players fight, they know how to protect themselves. Even though they're throwing punches, a lot of those punches are hitting the side of the helmet, him in the shoulder, maybe, in a less vulnerable area.
Yeah, you got more bloody
Right.
hands than
Sure. Now,
bloody
granted,
faces.
there are knockout punches, and we've seen a lot of them. There are ones that connect, and they do damage.
Yeah.
But it's not as often as people kind of think.
Right.
I think when people see a hockey fight, it looks more brutal sometimes than it is, but there are brutal fights. But again, they know how to handle themselves. They've been trained how to do this. Whereas in the NBA, they're basically trained to run up and down a court with, shorts and sneakers. Okay, I get it. Baseball, same thing. You have a glove, all right. Not a lot of equipment. So these players are protected. So when it comes to fighting in the NHL, like I said, people need to understand why it's there, what the rules are. And as long as this stuff is done in a proper way, then its meaning definitely comes through, and it definitely is something that is beneficial. Now, on the other side of it, when that stuff doesn't happen, dirty hits, that's the stuff you don't want in the NHL. I go back to Marty McSorley when he played with the Bruins, and one day he got mad for whatever the reason is, and he took a swing with his stick, and he caught Donald Brashear in the side of the head. Donald Brashear...
That ended his career, didn't it?
No, he did come back and play. It was an ugly sight, and that's the stuff that the media jumps on. That's the stuff that a casual fan or a non-NHL fan jumps on and goes, see, this is what happens when you allow fighting. No, this is what happens when someone makes a boneheaded decision, spur-of-the-moment decision that he definitely regrets, because they don't want to go out there and just hurt people to the point that their career's end. They just want to prove their point, that I'm here to protect my team. So that's why they need to follow the code, the rules when it comes to that, and not fly off the handle. Now, Jen, there's some players in the NHL who are considered to be tough guys. Throughout history, some today. Why don't we talk about a couple of tough guys that we each like? Start off with somebody that in your memory is just an NHL tough guy that just sticks in your head.
Okay, so you want me to start. All right. I don't know if I can say Ty Domi is the great.
When it comes to fighting?
When it comes to fighting, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He's a tough guy. The great tough guy.
Okay, so this is all around the period of time when I was becoming a massive fan of hockey. And Ty Domi was on my radar. I hated Ty Domi. Hated him massively. Oddly enough, I actually named our cat after Ty Domi, which is bizarre because I hated him so much. I didn't hate our cat, but weird. But he's got he just had this, you just knew if he was on the ice, something bad was going to happen. I mean,
Or you had to watch yourself.
hey, at least the people knew, the other players knew if he's on the ice, all right, something could happen. His career was between 1989 and 2006. His career penalty minutes for that period of time between 89 and 2006, his career penalty minutes were 3,515. I did some math. I hate math, but I did some math. That averages out to 3.4 penalty minutes per game. And that is actually, for an enforcer, at least a minute higher than the average. I looked up the average. The average is about two to three for an enforcer, much less for just your average player. He's just a beast. And I did hate him. I gotta say, the penalty infraction minutes. I had to actually look up PIM. Isn't that sad? But hey, I did it.
We're learning.
Yes. He had something like 42 minutes in 2 games. 2 games. 42 minutes of penalties. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, how is that possible?
In 2 games?
2 games. The first 2 games in 1989, the only 2 that he played in 1989. 2 games, 42 minutes of penalties. Just him alone. And there must have been a bunch of game misconducts and all the rest of it. I mean, the man was a beast.
He caused some ruckus, those 2 games.
He did. And you know how we talk about how when Marchand was with us, we were like, you'd love to hate him. And he's one of those guys where you hate him when he's on somebody else's team, but you want him on your team, right? That's how I always felt about Ty Domi. I hated the man, but dang, if he was on our team, I would have loved him. He's my guy. He's my guy. He's my big guy.
That's the respect you have when you just notice the talent in whatever it may be, and there's a respect there. What I loved about that guy was, if you recall, there was an incident where he went into the penalty box and a fan was kind of giving it to him over the glass.
Yes.
And the glass gives way.
Yes.
And that fan falls into the penalty box with Ty Domi, who proceeds to handle his business.
Mm-hmm.
I think one day I have to look this up. I'd love to know what that fan was thinking when that
fan was not
fell. And that was crap moment.
You know it.
It's almost like, when you go to the zoo and you look down into the pit, whether it's lions, tigers, gorillas, the dangerous animals that they have pretty far down. That's like leaning over the edge and falling into that pit.
Yes.
And that guy paid for it, and deservedly so. I mean, come on, again, don't poke the Tasmanian devil type of situation.
Absolutely. Now, to just bring Ty Domi into perspective a little bit, his goals, assists, whatnot, his goals, career, we're talking. So he played 1,020 games. He had career 104 goals. Career. Assist 141. What do you got, Jay?
I'm going to throw in somebody else who I respected a little bit back in the day, and it's Chris Nyland.
Okay.
Now, Chris Nyland was a very well-known NHL tough guy. He played mainly for the Montreal Canadiens for most of his career, but he also played for the Bruins as well as the New York Rangers. Now, you brought up stats. Okay, I'll throw some stats at you. Chris Nyland played in 688 games. Now, he only had 110 goals, 115 assists for 225 points. But he did have 3,043 penalty minutes.
That's something.
So, just like Ty Domi,
he
wasn't out there to score a lot of goals, but he was out there to kind of police the goal scorers to make sure they were protected.
Crazy.
Now, you talked about 42 penalty minutes in 2 games with Ty Domi.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Oh, tell me.
Chris Nyland, whose nickname was Knuckles, saw more fights than almost any other player in the NHL history. Nyland averaged more penalty minutes per game than any other player in league history and holds the record for the most penalty minutes in a single game with 40
in a single game.
game.
Wow. That's incredible.
So Ty Domi did it in 2 games. Chris Nyland says, you know what? I can do that in 1 game. Chris Nyland was a feared tough guy in the NHL. You did not want to face him, and many players have talked about his toughness. But again, we mentioned the code. He was somebody that firmly believed in that fighting had to have a code in the NHL so that it protected not only him, but other players.
I don't know if did Ty really, I don't remember him really respecting that too much. He was a little rougher around the edge.
No, he would.
He did?
He respected the code. When the punches were done or when the guy was beaten, he'd skate away.
All right.
His intensity sometimes would maybe come out more than,
sure.
but again, the other guy was still throwing punches too. So again, that code was still in play.
Right. Yep.
Not saying that he didn't have his moments, maybe where it went a little over the edge, because that line is a fine line.
It is.
But he would still try to live up to that code. Now, we talked about other players who respected him. I found this interesting story that came from Chris Chelios, who was a very, well-known, great defenseman in the NHL. And he talks about it, and he opens it up by saying this. Chris Chelios says, I wasn't the only person who was scared of Chris Nyland. He says that Chris Nyland made the 1987 U.S. team in the Canada Cup, along with Chris Chelios. The coach of the team at that time was Bob Johnson. Bob thought instead of having Chris Nyland on the team, he'd rather have young Jimmy Carson on the team over Chris Nyland for maybe scoring reasons. Maybe, I don't need Chris Nyland. I want this kid instead.
All right.
But the coach at that time said, I'm not going to go and tell Chris Nyland he's not on the team. The coach wouldn't tell him. None of the players wanted to tell him that they didn't that whole organization didn't really want him on the team. So guess what? The coach kept Chris Nyland on the team. Now, what makes this totally crazy is that the ending of this story is that Chris Nyland actually scored a pair of goals in that tournament. So he was brought in to be the enforcer, but he actually produced. So Chris Chelios talks about that the coach came to him and said, Chris, you're kind of a veteran leader. Can you go talk to Chris Nyland and say, we're going to replace you with this young Jimmy Carson? And Chris Chelios says, no way, and you know what, am I going to tell him that?
Wow.
So this guy held his position on the U.S. team in the Canada Cup because other people were just too afraid to tell him, maybe we don't want you on this team. So that says
a lot
how tough this guy was. Now, here's the downside to Chris Nyland's life. Because of all the fights he was in and all the abuse he took and injuries and all that stuff, unfortunately, he had then an addiction problem. He was addicted to such things as alcohol, painkillers, and then eventually later on in life, much harsher things. The reason for this is Chris Nyland had 30 surgeries over a 13-year career as an NHL enforcer. Now, when he would have those surgeries, painkillers at that time were just given out like candy.
Yeah.
And he even says, he was taking those things like M&Ms, just popping them down nonstop. And back then, we didn't quite know what the effects were.
Yeah.
He mentions that eventually that prescription ran out. He couldn't get those pills, but he was still in pain. So instead, he turned to such things as heroin.
Oh, that's a shame.
Now, where the feel-good then comes out of it is after he says this. He says, and I quote, I was embarrassed and ashamed to ask for help, but he said, I know I was killing myself. Now, since all that, Chris Nyland eventually did get help. Now, he's been battling to stay sober every day since then. He mentions that he had 251 fights in his NHL career, but dealing with addiction is the longest and toughest fight of his life. He says, some fights never end. I am a drug addict and an alcoholic.
Oh, wow.
He mentions that he's actually been clean and sober for a long time now. He's not doing any alcohol, no pills, no drugs. He's living clean and sober, but he mentions every single day is a fight.
course it
What
is.
did it cost him? He had a marriage of 25 years that was forfeited because of his addictions.
Aw.
Now, he doesn't blame anybody but himself. He's a stand-up guy. He says, this was all on me. Doesn't blame his wife, doesn't blame his family. Even though he was doing all this stuff and people seem to think, drugs are fun and all, he says,
Drugs are fun, yeah.
he goes, I didn't do it for the fun side. I didn't do drugs to get high.
He was in
I
pain.
did it to escape the pain.
My God.
His biggest regret that he closes out, he actually has a book where he talks about this. He's done documentaries. His biggest regret is that he hurt his family in the process of all of this.
Oh, that's
So that just speaks to what a stand-up guy that Chris Nyland was, how he was an intimidating force on the ice. He had to deal with issues off the ice, and eventually he did, and he doesn't pass blame like so many people today might do.
Wow.
So that's why I decided to go. I know, but Chris Nyland, there's great documentary out there. I think it's called Tough Guys, where he is one of the main focuses, along with, say, Bob Probert, Tiger Williams, all those guys. And their stories are very similar in a way. So that's why I decided to go with Chris Nyland. Now, I think you have one more of somebody that's kind of near and dear to your heart.
PJ Stock out there bumps with Brad Norton. They look, and here they go. PJ Stock.
He had accumulated 523 penalty minutes. That was in 235 games. He had some good penalty minutes. He wasn't playing a lot in the NHL. He wasn't constant, but his stats, I was a little bit surprised. Oh, I'll just say it. His goals. I don't know how this is even possible, but five
Yeah.
goals
How many games?
in 235 games. 5 goals. He had 21 assists for an all-time high of 26 points for his entire NHL career. But, and I don't really think he was never slated as being an enforcer, but he went out there and he got the crowd going. He really did.
He was an energy guy.
He was an energy guy. He would go out there. He really got the crowd going the way that he wanted. You could tell he wanted that crowd energy. He wanted that crowd attention. The fights themselves, it's like a little energizer bunny. I mean, the man, he just fought. I mean, punch after punch after punch, punch for punch. It was something. I miss seeing him out there. I know he went.
He's in the booth now.
He's in the booth.
He's
We
doing
get to see
commentary.
him on a regular basis, which is
He's with
nice.
the Bruins now.
Yeah.
He's doing a little commentary, for the Bruins. So it's
Yeah,
good.
so he's just somebody that is always going to stand out in my mind because he was with the Wolfpack. And although the Wolfpack were with my previous favorite team, the Rangers, he did wind up, bouncing over to the Bruins. The Wolfpack, I don't know. I fell even deeper in love with the game via the Wolfpack because, I mean, how are you going to not go see a game for $15? It was so easy to go see a game, and they were good games. They were just below NHL, so it was fun.
They played where the Hartford Whalers used to play in the mall in Hartford.
Yes.
That everybody knows the mall.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned that he stood out to you. For him to stand out to you, unfortunately, he'd have to stand on top of like a milk crate.
Oh, stop it.
Because he is a short king.
He
and
is.
He is a
is.
short, and props to short kings out there because
Yep.
we're all, I'm right on the verge. I am literally on the verge. In another year or two, I'm sure I'm going to shrink underneath that line. So
That was part of what we were talking about too. Does it have to be the big guys? Is it always big guys that are fighters? Because it always seems like you got these massive guys going head to head against each other. But the ones that impress me the most are the ones who are smaller in stature going against the big guys and still holding their own.
Ty Domi.
Yeah,
Not
right.
a big guy.
Right.
Not a big guy.
Everybody was afraid of Ty Domi.
That's it. Now, it's funny you mentioned that because since those guys were in the NHL's kind of shifted as far as what the tough guy's role now is.
Yeah.
Back then, like you said, if you didn't score goals, if you didn't produce point-wise, that was okay. You were there for a specific reason.
Right.
And you did your job. Nowadays, because the NHL has become so skilled and you can't really just carry an enforcer.
Yeah.
Now we've gone into a different type of tough guy. And the guy that I think encapsulates that pretty well is Tom Wilson of the Washington Capitals. Now, when you see Tom Wilson play, he's the right winger for the Capitals, but he's aggressive. He's very physical. He's not afraid to throw his body around, but he's also an effective scorer. The tough guy / enforcer now has to produce. So when you look at a guy like Tom Wilson, he's played in 871 games where he has 196 goals, 233 assists for 429 points.
Yeah.
But he also has 1,586 penalty minutes.
Love it.
Just over 1,500. But he's producing.
He is.
He's a guy that he puts the puck in the net. He also sets up goals. And that's what the NHL is now turning into. You need to produce to make a team. You can't just go out there and throw punches and score 2 goals a year.
I mean, can you imagine Ty Domi putting out some pretty good stats back in the day and while being an enforcer? I mean, you know, that would have been impressive. Tom Wilson is impressing me.
You have to look at it just from this aspect. Even though he is a physical player, he has, as I said, these offensive skills. He's a grinder, and he's played alongside of Alexander Ovechkin. So to play alongside that guy, you got to be able to do something well offensively.
Heck, you know, his 24-25 season, 33 goals. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty good.
They're even considering him for the upcoming Olympics. That shows you what kind of impact now these new tough guys have to play. They have to be tough, but they also have to be kind of smart. Don't want to take dumb penalties, and you got to produce offensively.
Speaking of the Olympics, you know, I know we just talked about it, but I heard a little bit of talking. I guess the NHL must have made enough of a stink where Italy got going quite a bit. I mean, they are making some good headway. I think now the problem or the concern is the ice itself, but we'll see. We'll see. It's looking a little better than it was.
Can you imagine the meetings that these Italian crews are having, you know, as all this is going on? It's like, hey, Giuseppe, we got to get this rink going. What do you mean? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have some vino. That's probably the worst Italian invitation I've ever heard.
They don't really even know what happened with the sizing of the rink. They're just putting it up to, we messed up.
As I mentioned before, it's the Italians.
It's crazy. Hey, like I said before, we're half Italian. Watch yourself, buddy.
And I can say this because I'm half Italian. There's some things that Italians do that you just shake your head and you chalk it up to, hey, they're Italians. We'll see. I'm hoping for the best because, you know, I do want to see Olympic hockey. I do want to see the best in the world there.
Yeah.
As much as I miss the college kids playing, I think there's something there to that. You know, but that's a discussion for another day.
Okay.
Jen, we talked about fighting in the NHL. I think at the end of this, I'm going to make a statement. You tell me agree, disagree, or add to it. You ready?
Okay. Yes, go.
Fighting in the NHL has evolved. At one point, it was, like we mentioned, it's there for a reason. It's there to police the players so they handle their own business.
So we're going back. We're going back to like these or so when it was pretty brutal. Brutal up until...
in our time period, 70s forward to 2000.
Okay, gotcha.
But since then, it's evolved.
Yes.
To the point to where now there are tough guys in the NHL, but they need to produce.
Yes. I like it.
Main thing, when it comes to people saying, should hockey have fighting into it?
Yes.
Of course it should, because again, this is there so that they can regulate or police themselves.
Right.
And again, there's a code to fighting. It's not just this brutal throwing punches till you kill somebody. There's a code to it that they, most of the time, 99% of the time, they live up to. Mm-hmm. And it is somewhat necessary even in today's game.
And this is coming from somebody, I am a peace-loving person. I do not want to see anybody, oh, he's making a face over here like, what are you talking about? I am a peace-loving person. Don't try to even say that I'm not. I will fight you on it. No, kidding. I am not one of those people. I'm not a fighter, but I want to see it in hockey. It needs to be there. It serves a purpose. The NHL should not police it any more than they already do. Okay, after my spiel, now you may go on.
So I agree with what you said, but people, let me kind of into a little behind the curtain as far as this peace-loving person. The other night, I'm standing in the kitchen, minding my own business, and a question was asked. I don't recall what the question was. Now, I will be honest, I kind of gave a little bit of a smart answer. I will say that. It wasn't.
Hey, in case you all don't know, Jay is a nudge. He's a nudge. He's the kind of guy that likes to get under your skin and expects nothing else. Okay, come on, go ahead. Say what you got to say now.
So maybe that happened. I'm not to the degree she said. And then as I turned to face her, all of a sudden, I was hit in the center of my chest with a projectile.
But what was the projectile?
It was a tomato. It was a tomato. Now, she threw a tomato at me across the kitchen and hit me square in the chest, and it almost injured me. I was, I might have been actually 4 to 6.
You should have heard him, y'all. He was like, oh, what was that all about? He made such a stink about it. I'm sorry. It was a tomato, and it was mushy.
Fighter, that person who has a mean, okay, but there's the light on the
No, I don't. I do not have a mean bone in my body. I am reactive, though. When you're stupid to, and it's specifically you, when you're stupid to me and you try to get me going, you can definitely get me going.
My card post gets me going. Let me tell you why.
Please tell me about it.
My card post gets me going because my card post and the owner, Mark, saves me a lot of money. Let me explain.
Please do.
My card post is the best place to go on the internet to buy, sell, and trade sports cards, Pokemon cards, anything else you can think of, just like the big platforms. But unlike the big platforms, Mark doesn't take any of my money when I make a sale. So if I sell a card for $100, I keep $100.
Unheard of.
Doesn't take any of it. All he takes every month is a small subscription fee that allows you to sell on my card post.
So like I said last time, you sell a $1,000 card, you're keeping $1,000?
Yeah, you just added a zero onto what I just said, but that is exactly right.
See, doesn't he deserve a tomato now? I'm telling you.
Now, who doesn't deserve a tomato thrown at them is Mark.
Okay.
Mark has built a platform that is friendly to the user. It's very easy to use, to understand. And get this, if you have any kind of issue, you can literally message the owner and he gets back to you within a few hours. Now, I've used the bigger platforms and I have a lot of issues, but those big platforms, you know what I get back? I get back that answer that you can tell is just on some kind of sheet that says if someone asks this, you send them that. That's not what you get from my card post. If you're into cards, trading cards, Pokemon cards, which nowadays it seems like everybody's into, you need to go check out my card post, who is a sponsor of not only this show, but my previous show. So I've been with him for a while. He's been with me. That's why you need to check out my card post, because he's still around and he's fighting tooth and nail with the big platforms out there to give you and I, the average collector, better experience. So go check out my card post.
I heard he's a really great guy, too.
Mark is a great guy. You will find out shortly. All right, Jen, so transitioning perfectly into our next segment, one of the things I probably should have done when you threw that tomato and hit me in the chest so violently, probably should have called the law on you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we're going to talk about our, let's call it what it is, our obsession.
Yeah.
And it's with Law and Order SVU, the TV series.
Now, let's start off saying that you didn't really ever have any inclination to watch this show. This was all me. I was like, I've been obsessed from day one when I started watching, and for the most part. And yeah, my husband has been schooled as to things that are going on out there in the world. They do sensationalize
Jen, why don't you explain to maybe there's someone out there who doesn't understand what exactly is the premise behind Law and Order SVU?
Law and Order SVU. So SVU stands for
Special Victims Unit.
It does. But yes, it's a Special Victims Unit. And
I think we could say it's any crimes that has to do with a sexual nature, as you said, like men, women, children.
yes.
It's also, they deal with such things as I've learned, like of child abductions. Again, more of the special nature. I guess we could sum it up by saying when it's more of a sensitive case, when there's sexual overtones or, again, children, they don't just want to put it to your typical detective police. They want a more specialized unit who understands
They're trained.
what they're dealing with.
Right. So that's what the whole premise is. They come in, what's going on today? Okay, this person came in. They have a complaint to make because this happened to them. It's not so unlike all of the other Law and Orders, but I think the subject matter is what makes it stand out to me. It deals more on an emotional basis, than the other Law and Orders. When they first started, the first few seasons, it was a little rough. They had to get their feet under them and whatnot, and they finally did. And Jay, little by little, he got more and more and more sucked in. And that's what this show does. It sucks you in. It really sucks you in.
Why it really drew me in was the subject matter to start.
Mm-hmm.
In our world today, I'm not exposed to certain things that other people are, meaning females, other nationalities, things like that. So growing up, and especially where we grew up, that kind of stuff wasn't prevalent day to day.
For white men.
Right.
Yes.
But when you start seeing stories that this show brings out, as you mentioned, they're sensationalized, but they're still based off of real life events that happened.
Right.
So right there's kind of the popularity from my end, is that I was really kind of fascinated by these different stories that they're basing off real life events. Then on top of it, you add the characters. I've kind of, when I first started watching, it took a little time to get going, but then the characters are very well developed. So Jen, let's give the people like kind of the top characters as far as, who they are on the show. Olivia Benson, who is I would say the prime, right? She's kind of been the consistent throughout the years for the most part.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, she's still there. She's really, other than Ice-T, she's the only one that's...
Please hold on Ice-T, because Ice-T is a subject all himself we're going to discuss. So
yes, he is.
He's on the show as well. He plays a detective on the show. So you have Olivia Benson. Then early on, her partner was big. Stabler, right? The rough ex-military.
Cannon.
Yeah, he just, she was kind of the one that would think things through, the more level head. He was just ready to fly off, but they mixed well together.
Yes.
Then on top of that, if you recall, we mentioned Ice-T was part of that.
Yep.
They also had Richard Belzer, the comedian.
Right.
Who played, I think his name was Monk. I got to admit, I kind of liked his characters well. So those were kind of the four characters I was introduced to.
Right.
Now, as time rolled on, Stabler left the show. Richard Belzer left the show. They would have different people come and go, and, okay. Also, I should mention, it's not only the detectives that they bring into your life, but it's also the district attorneys, the prosecutors. So there's so much of that. Again, the characters that have been introduced through the years.
Yeah.
For instance, you talk about the defense, or you talk about the district attorney, Barba is one of our favorite characters that goes through a number of different things. He's there for a while. He has to leave. And
Raphael Barba.
That's it. Interesting character. Now, if we flash forward to today, we're in season 24.
Yes.
So there's right now, I've watched 24 seasons, and I don't know how many episodes in every season, but we've watched them consistently. There's a couple of new characters that have been introduced that we both kind of like. For me, it's got to be, he was a detective who was studying to be a lawyer and eventually became an assistant district attorney working with SVU.
Dominic.
And Jen, who is that?
Dominic Carisi.
Great character.
Yes.
Best hair on the show by far. When you talk about stand-up nice guys, that's his character, and we love him. What really draws you into this show, too, is not only the cases and what they go through,
Yeah.
but it's also their personal lives and what they have to deal with in the course of all.
Oh,
this.
it's all a hot mess.
Which is hot mess is the best way to.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to this series, one of the things that was kind of pointed out to me a little early on by you, and I want you kind of to explain this theory to the people out there, is
okay.
when it comes to an episode,
Yeah.
what is the most famous celebrity did it theory?
It's my theory, but it seems to be that it is actor or
Guest appearance?
guest appearance. Thank you. Whichever one is making a guest appearance, whoever the largest one is, like the most well known, is usually the bad guy. Is usually the whodunit type of thing. So if you know the actor, even if he's a small actor, even if he's just bit parts, but you've seen him around. If he's the biggest one, the most known one on that show, other than other than all the other stars of the show, he's going to be the baddie. He's going to be the evil one. Everybody's going to wind up coming after him at some point, usually.
And they may even kind of position it in a way that, hey, he's being very helpful. He's trying to get them to figure out who did it.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's like that aha moment where they kind of exhaust all other avenues. And, oh, by the way, maybe we should look into this guy because something slips.
Yes.
To then piggyback that, something else you pointed out to me is while watching this show, you need to be you need to notice certain things that they show you, especially early on.
Yeah.
In the sense that it has no meaning to what they're doing. You're like almost like, why are they talking to this guy, or why are they showing this scene?
Right. If they say for instance, there's a door. Let's just use a door, okay? And then they hone in on the door. They do a close up on the door, and you're like, okay, they spent a little bit more time on that door. They didn't have to spend any time on the door. The door has no significance to anything that is going on in the scene right now. But you better know somewhere in the rest of the episode that door is going to come into play. Somebody got smashed in the head with it. Who knows? Something is going to happen with this door. So they're very crafty in the way they set everything up.
So those two things, if you're not, if you're thinking about starting to watch this show, definitely keep those things in mind, because it makes it a lot easier to really follow the show and understand it sometimes. Because there are episodes where you're kind of scratching your head like you don't really know. They kind of maybe show you a bunch of different things. But when you figure that out, that usually the famous person is involved in some way or is going to affect the story in some way.
I should have never told you that.
You shouldn't have. Because what ends up happening when we're watching an episode?
You and I are sitting there and we're like, okay, that person is the one. They did it.
4 minutes into it, you're going, that guy definitely did it. And
sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes we're wrong.
Sometimes.
Sometimes
they do a good job of doing that and then pulling out the rug from underneath you.
I think it's interesting, actually, though, that you didn't really understand. So coming from being a female who is terrified of being out in the world, he used to ask me, why don't you go for a walk? Why don't you go do this? Why don't you go do that? I'm like, no, I'm not going to go for a walk all alone in the woods. Are you out of your mind? Somebody's going to kill me. Guess who I have to thank for knowing that somebody's going to kill me if I go into the woods alone? SVU. It's why I carry all the stuff that I carry to make sure I can get out of any situation should I ever be alone.
This takes place in New York City. We should mention that. But what it points out, people, is the many different ways, if we just take what she's talking about, the many different ways that a female can be abducted, can be, again, they deal with such things as sexual inappropriateness. We won't get into the harshness of it all, but just the many different opportunities, avenues, and ways that this stuff can happen to females, obviously to children. Every so often, they do have a male kind of dominated episode where something happens to the main male character that, is not good. But I would say it's probably 45% women issues as far as, the cases, 45% children, with the cases, and then everything else is sprinkled in.
Right.
So it just kind of really opened my eyes up to, there's a lot of crappy things that can happen, especially to women in the world. And I say to my wife now on a regular basis, I'm not quite sure how you women get the courage to get up and go out into that world after you hear these stories that I just didn't pay attention to throughout my life.
Well, we talked about the fact that a woman, generally speaking, cannot put her headphones on and just decide to go walking at 8 o'clock at night down a quiet road, down a street. We just can't do that. We have to be aware of our surroundings at all times. And that is something that happily you have learned from that. You know why I'm probably quite a bit overboard when it comes to that kind of stuff, but I don't want anything to happen to myself. I try to take precautions, and I'm glad that now you understand why I have these concerns, why I take these precautions, and we have SVU to thank for that.
We do.
But
it's really weird. Now let's get into, the show deals with horrific situations, but like you said, I think in today's world, the more you know about this stuff, even if it's from a TV show, that does, again, maybe push it a little bit. It's still based off of things that happened in real life.
Yep.
Now, to go along with that, the other reason why we are fascinated with this show is this. Majority of you probably out there who listen to this podcast probably have a job. You get paid to do a job. Hopefully you get compensated fairly. I mean, hopefully, it's a situation where you feel like you make an honest day's wage for what you do.
Right.
Jen, after seeing what these people, meaning the detectives, go through or the attorneys go through on this show, I would personally think they must be clearing $250,000 a year.
Right.
What is an average SVU detective's salary in New York City?
Yes.
For the year as of today? What is that number? $250,000? More?
Are you kidding? So they make anywhere between $60,000 and $80,000 a year. And I am just blown away by this. We have people that are protecting us. They're protecting us. They're going after all of these people. They're taking all the risk, comprehend how little they get paid. These people are people that have to hear details. And we're not talking just this person did this and this and this. No, they need to know deep details of all of this stuff. These guys, they need psychiatrists to deal with their jobs. It's insane. I would never do it. I would never, ever, ever do it. And we have a joke. We're like, they never have a good day. They never have a good day. There's always something horrible happening.
To add on to what you're saying, not only do they have to listen to these details, look at what they see. They see dead people. They see people who have gone through horrific things that survived, and now they're mentally messed up. They see things that happen to children. They see things. I mean, the scripts are endless, and you're 100% right. We should make a drinking game up that is basically when I say to you during an episode, $80,000 after they're watching like a crime scene with a brutal murder. I mean, or a sex trafficking, ring that they have to somehow figure out.
And the frustration that comes in when they know who did it. They know. The person is practically saying that they did it, but they don't have any hard evidence. So because they don't have any hard evidence, the guy goes free, or the girl, or whoever goes free.
We mentioned that they never have a good day. Their job is dealing with a horrific subject. Then they see horrific things.
Oh.
Let's add into that, too, that the show, I think, brings out very nicely is that you would think when you're trying to solve crimes of this scale, every single law enforcement would all work together hand in hand to try to, share information, to help each other, to solve the crime. And that doesn't happen. If anything, it works against you. One precinct doesn't want to help another because they don't want to give up, information because they want stats. They want to solve the crime. Or an attorney might not, the DA might not take a case because, well, it's a horrific crime, but we can't with 100% certainty say we're going to win this. And that's going to kind of skew our stat.
Yeah.
People, this series, what it's done for me, and this is the bad part about it, it's opened up my eyes just to say, man, this system has so many flaws to it. Granted, it's a great system for the most part. It's a fair.
And they do highlight that. They do highlight the inequities in so many different aspects. And again, this is a TV show, so it is sensationalized. But if they see this kind of stuff, if the actual people that do this for a living in New York see this stuff, even 3, 4, 5 times a year, that's too much. These people are built differently. I mean,
and the time that they put in, and I think this is true, even again, I know it's on the show, but what I've noticed is, again, for $80,000 a year, they put massive amounts of time and overtime. Fine, they get
$80,000 max.
Max. Okay, max. I apologize. So that makes it even worse.
Yep.
But what I've noticed too is they're kind of like, in a weird way, teachers. And what I mean by that is teachers will always go over and above what their pay is, what their time is, as far as what they get paid for their time. These guys are constantly reaching out to people in the past or are dealing with them on their own time. When they're in the middle of, family time and their phone rings, they pick it up and they go. I'm sorry. $80,000 a year to do and see and deal with the things they deal with. I'd rather go work at Walmart. I don't care.
I agree. I think a lot of the people that actually do this stuff, they really have really good hearts. They really want to help people.
I think what they go through, it feels like basically every day for them is they're just waiting for that rug to be pulled out from underneath them.
Oh, and then on top of that, they got to deal with their own family messes, their own issues. I mean, if they happen to be chronically ill, say, for instance, if they happen to have family problems, somebody's getting a divorce, no, thank you. No, thank you. I mean, I give them so much credit, but no, not for me.
Now, we are a hockey podcast. We are talking about the and now, which is outside of hockey, right? But it's something that's interesting to us, and we're sharing it. That's what we do.
It is.
But let's do this. Are there any connections to hockey in that show?
There are a couple. It's very, very far and few between. But there is, I think it was season 18. Season 18, episode 11. And that had to deal with, if you remember, because it wasn't that long ago that we watched this episode, and that had to deal with hazing. And it happened to be hazing on a hockey team. I think it may have been college, something along those lines. It wasn't NHL or any of that kind of stuff, or even AHL.
I think they mentioned it was just a youth hockey league, if I recall correctly. So they don't really put a branding or a level on there.
And that was brutal too. So they did go into some pretty
graphic,
cringy type stuff. So there was some hockey interlaced in there. I know Crosby has been mentioned. Sidney Crosby has been mentioned, and there was one other that was mentioned. For the life of me, I can't think of who it was, but in passing, they just.
I think it was Wayne Gretzky. I think they kind of referenced like the greatest, possible. And somebody brought up his name. If I recall.
I mean, so there is a little bit of interjection there.
Yep.
That's our claim to SVU, being in our discussion along with hockey.
There was also another episode, and I had to actually dig for this. It was in season 11, And actually, the episode name was called Thin Ice, and that's centered around the murder of a high school hockey coach.
Oh.
At the end of it, the killer, spoiler alert if you are watching it season, like I said, 11, the killer was actually one of the fathers of one of the players on the team, if you recall. The only other thing that connects Law & Order SVU to hockey is something that's pretty cool.
Okay.
There's a NHL team that uses something from that show at their arena.
I don't know if it's from that show. Is it just Law and Order?
Okay, let's tell the people what it is, and then they can
Okay.
Google it. The Carolina Hurricanes, during their games, when a player from the other team receives a penalty, the team, or I should say the organization, plays a sound effect as they're going into the box. Now, if you even understand what Law and Order is, there's that famous little
Dung dung.
That's not bad. That's not bad. But here's how it really sounds. So that's what they play when they're going into the box. I think that's something that's pretty interesting.
Yes.
Now, there's the link. There's not much more when it comes to hockey in this series, Law and Order SVU. I do want to end with what I think is the greatest thing by far in Law and Order SVU, and that is Ice-T.
I knew you were going to bring him up. I knew it.
And here's why I love Ice-T on SVU.
Yes.
When you watch him early on in the series, you can really tell Ice-T can't act to save his life. And that's okay. He brings something to it. They're trying to make him that street cop that's got a little edge to him. He likes to argue. He's a little tougher. But man, when you watch him early on and some of the things he says, and
hey, he
just
brings
makes
over,
you smile.
He brings in a very, very, very upsetting show. I mean, let's just break it down the way it is. It is not a fun show. It's one of those shows that you watch because you want to see a car crash. I mean, basically, that's what it is. He brings in a tiny touch of comical relief. He's got these like little tiny one-liners here and there that they'll just pop out, and it's just like classic Ice-T.
He will say things during the show that don't fit,
Right.
and I'm curious if they were part of the script or he ad-libbed, but they could be talking about something very sensitive, like, this person, was brutally blah, 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 and then all of a sudden it goes silent, and Ice-T goes, damn, that's tough. Come on. Well, now, I will say, now that we're in season 24, he has gotten significantly better. So I would hope after however many episodes they've done over the course of the year, he would, because he has been a regular on that show from very early on. Here's the other thing that I absolutely love about Ice-T on this show. Ice-T is a stylish man.
Yes.
And he wears some pretty stylish clothes, not over the top, but stylish. One of the things I've always noticed is on that show is his sneaker game especially is top notch. He's got the whitest of white Nike, whatever Jordans may be. But the one thing you'll notice is that when he's wearing these shoes, he has a difficult time walking, as we all know. Jordans, the fashion ones, are very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Along with some other sneakers that it's almost like high heels for women. They're meant to look good.
No.
Meant to perform.
No. High heels for women and sneakers are nowhere in the same. No.
Point being, they're there for look, not performance.
You have never worn high heels. You don't know these things. Side point, Mariska Hargitay,
Who is who on the show?
who is Olivia Benson, her nickname for Ice-T, you know what she calls him? Icy.
Okay, so back to the
just love it.
sneakers. So when he's wearing these sneakers especially, and that are the whitest of white, whenever there's a chase scene where they're running after a suspect or someone they're chasing, first off, watch how Ice-T tries to run. Throughout, even as a young, early on the thing, he runs like a 90-year-old man. So that's right off the bat. But somehow he's able to catch these world-class sprinting suspects very easily. And oh, by the way, he dives more times than not to bring them down, which is amazing to me because he can't run.
You all of a sudden see Ice-T flying out of nowhere.
Flying through the air out of nowhere to take down the suspect. And here's the best part about it. After the long chase, running through the streets of New York City, through the garbage-infested alleyways, jumping over bushes and trees, he tackles the perp,
Jumping over
to the
trees.
ground.
Okay.
You know, bushes, trees, small trees in New York.
Right.
They don't have very good ecosystem. When all that's said and done, they cuff the suspect and they show Ice-T his sneakers are whiter than they were before. So if someone could explain to me, and I hope when Ice-T listens to this episode, first and foremost,
when he does, not if, when he does.
When he does, I am not putting this man down. I would shake this man's hand and say, I love you on that show. You are by far my most favorite thing on that show.
He's your favorite character?
I got to think about that. But
Okay.
let me finish my thought.
Sorry.
Please, Ice-T, explain to me how you're able to do this. I think Ice-T has a method and he does it.
All right.
My favorite character
Yeah.
on the show,
Yeah.
I have to admit, it's one of two people, and it's not any of the detectives. I love Ice-T. For me, and I think you and I are in the same boat, it's both of the district attorneys, as we mentioned, Raphael Barba,
I'm telling you.
and Dominic Carisi.
I'm telling you.
I love both of those guys for very different reasons. Carisi is just that big-hearted, nice guy, smart guy with a great head of hair.
Raphael Barba, let's just say, is played by Raul Esparza.
But those are my two favorite characters on the show. And I think the reason is simply that, like you said, when it comes to Carisi, he's just, you're rooting for him. He's a nice guy. You want him to catch the bad guy and prosecute him. And I think the other part of it with Barba is that he's kind of like me. He's got a sarcastic side to him, but he's super intelligent.
He's
well dressed. And there's also that little will they, won't they when it comes to the Olivia Benson character.
I used to have that feeling with Stabler, and I always thought there was something going on there. But now I'm thinking not so much. Maybe that was really just family feel, because I definitely feel there's something going on with Barba. Just want to interject. We keep saying Dominic Carisi, blah, blah, blah. That's Peter Scanavino. I probably messed that up, but just...
I bet you his father might be on that Italian working crew who's putting the ring together.
Oh, hey, could be. You never know.
We said a lot of positive things about the show. I do want to bring out one thing that I don't like about the show, and it's more of a recent thing, if that's okay with you. When you watch early episodes, they do a masterful job as far as the story. So the writers did a great job, how they wielded the story. And now, granted, they would periodically bring back old stories.
Or even some stories from the, just small bits and pieces.
But mainly it was very well written. And again, they would intertwine from old episodes, but it was still kind of, it's SVU. It was kind of self-encapsulated with those stories. Well, once you get into like season 23 forward,
yes,
the problem I have is we all know that Law and Order has several different series out there.
Right.
Well, right around that time period, as you mentioned, Stabler left Law and Order SVU. He was doing other projects. Eventually, he comes back to the SVU family, and they wanted to do a spinoff where he was kind of the head of his own division, working over in Europe, dealing with organized crime. What they started to do then is say, okay, we're going to start cross-promoting. Now, they didn't just do like his show. They would do his show, other Law and Orders. They even went as far as to do characters from Chicago PD coming in to help them with the case that then they would go do on their show. So it was a lot of cross-promotion to build the brand. Season 23.
Right.
I don't like it. Because here's what happens. If you don't watch any of those other shows, which I don't do, I'm SVU only, they'll give you the little summary as to how it connects. but it makes the story very disjointed.
It waters it down.
It waters it down.
Yeah.
I don't like it. It's not a consistent, like, here's story, next week is the next story. They'll wait a month and then they'll bring it back. And then, oh, here we go.
Yep.
6 months later, we might have got a new lead and that's what I don't like. And then on top of it, the way they used to do the early series was they would kind of set you up as to what you were, they were going to do, what the crime was. You kind of saw it, and then how they worked towards it. Now it's like, okay, they show, say, one of the detectives talking to a relative, and all of a sudden, oh, it's about that relative.
Right.
That's the crime. So
you would think
doing this.
Yeah. It's almost like, okay, well, every single person that works in here in the SVU unit has someone that they know that has recently gone through X, Y, and Z. And it's strange. It's strange.
Yeah.
I don't know if they may have switched writers. It kind of feels like they switched writers.
Yeah.
And it's disjointed now. It's not as smooth.
And that does happen in a series. Writers leave and the show changes, or they decide to go in a different, and that's understandable. But again, that's just my complaint. Overall, I would highly recommend the show. But if you start on episode 1 and watch every episode moving forward. And again, pay attention to Ice-T's white sneakers. That's an important thing.
So we got the white sneakers. You got check out who's the biggest star. Okay. And anything else? No,
I think that's pretty much it. I mean,
All
we're
right.
coming up on a 2-hour show here, and we talked about hockey for under an hour. So that tells you how much we love Law and Order SVU.
Hey, I could
And
continue
the sound
talking.
effect. That's why we love the show.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the show? Do you even watch it? If you do you agree with what we said? Have you seen Ice-T's white sneakers and him flying through the air even though he can't run a lick to catch a suspect?
Are you obsessed the way we are?
Let us know. Hit us up on our Instagram account at Hockey and Podcast. Let us know what you think about Law and Order SVU if you watch it, or maybe you're going to start watching it and you'd like some tips. We will definitely give you some tips on how to watch this great series. Jen, we're at the end of episode number 4.
We are.
We talked about hockey. We brought out some news. I had to eat some crow early on.
You did.
Because I had mentioned that the Buffalo Sabres were hot garbage, and they have since then started to prove me wrong. Now, a caveat to what I said before in that I'm okay. I'm a man. I'll admit when I'm wrong. Let's see how they finish the year. And that's going to be the bigger thing.
All right.
So with episode 4 in the books, Jen, as always, we want to thank people out there for taking the time to listening to our new podcast. We see the numbers. They're growing slowly as we get out there more and more. And that's something that's very encouraging. If you're one of those people that have listened to us from episode 1, we want to say thank you. If you're one of those people who followed us from episode 1, we want to say thank you. If you're just tuning in because you saw the Law and Order SVU in our title and you kind of dug it, this is kind of what this podcast will do. We will talk about hockey, but we will also talk about other subjects that interest us that might be parallel or hockey adjacent, or maybe, like Law and Order SVU, have nothing to do with hockey. And that's what keeps us interested in talking to each other for almost 2 hours.
Yes.
In different rooms in our house when we could be doing it.
After
right
being
on a
married for
comfy
29 years, after being married that long, and you wanted to mention what we got coming up, too. Don't forget that part. The interview that we've got coming up.
Oh, right.
Yes.
We have been honored. I am using the word honored to be invited to go on a wonderful podcast this coming Friday. Jen and I will be guests on the wonderful podcast called Friday Nights with Phil.
Suck it, Trebek!
I'm looking forward to it.
You should.
I was nervous. I got to say. But after I've watched some of what I'm getting myself into here, I'm like, okay, I can hang with these guys.
You already know California Date's a great guy. We've had him
Love
on.
his wife.
I had him on my show.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful person. I will say this: you will never meet somebody as interesting as Phil from many different aspects.
All right.
He's a smart guy. He's a very opinionated guy, but he's also a guy who has a big heart
Yeah.
and many other qualities that you will see. So if you like our podcast, definitely tune in this Friday on Friday Nights with Phil at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to have a really good time. So definitely check that out. Now, for our show, if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Give us a follow, give us a subscribe, let people know you listen to the show. And the reason for that is the internet can be a fickle thing from time to time. The internet sometimes won't push to people who listen to hockey this podcast, just in general because we're relatively new. But the more times you click that button, that just makes the opportunity for other people to find this more and more, or easier to do, I guess you could say, because the internet's fickle and they only want to send you weird cat videos or some other videos as far as what's a better way to open the tin can. Jen, do you have any closing thoughts for episode number 4?
Not really. I mean, I like this. I liked our flow. I think we have good back and forth. There's a few times where I really wish you were sitting next to me because you did deserve a tomato, here and there. But I think we did well. I'm happy with it. I'm excited for next week. I don't know what we're doing next week. We'll figure it out.
I thought we set the tone early on and continued it through the show.
Yeah.
All right, Jen, for the Hockey In podcast, I'm your host, Jay. That's Jen on the other side of the desk. We want to say thank you for listening. And as always, check us out every Wednesday when a new episode drops. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Ciao, y'all.